Welcome, honored guests. Right now we are inside of Mari. This is where I do part of my texturing when it comes to my characters. Alright, so based on what I told you in the previous tutorial, I want to use the textures that I was given by 3D Scanstore. These ones, right? And the great thing is that it gives you the albedo, right? The diffuse, the color map. Most importantly, the displacement. They give you also the roughness map, the specular, and that's it, right? So if you're using a different mesh and you did the step of CWrap to get the textures from the model you get for free and transfer them to your model, I'll show you quickly how you can do that. This is the window. You put the name of your project, the path, right? You choose your object, and you go to the channels, right? You uncheck the rest, and you leave the diffuse color. You set it to the size you want. In my case, it was 8K, right? The color space, leave it at automatic, and you're gonna leave the scalar section unchecked, all right? And 16-bit half. And you create your project, and I'm going to open up mine because what I just showed you was the way that I created my file, right? And the model you imported, I imagine, was the one you created, which is in my case guts right here, right? I'm just going to create a basic color again so that we can see the whole model. And here he is. Sorry. All right. Then the next step, you go to this option right here, or you can just right click in the gray area, you click add object. In this window, you select your wrapped version of the female, right? And I have it right here called head wrapped. And it's gonna look weird like this because they pretty much are the same, right? They're overlapping, and this is the weird look it gives you because the objects are overlapping, right? So with this one selected, right, in your channel, diffuse color, the one we created, right, it probably won't have one, but you're gonna go to right here on channels, add channel, right, 8K, you write the name you want here, 16-bit half, color, you leave scalar data unchecked, and you create a layer, right? This one right here, and you go up here. I hope you can see it. I hope it's not removed. I'm just gonna move the window down so make sure you can see it in the recording. You go to layers, then you go import into the current layer or into a new layer. In my case, current layer. You don't have to create a layer. You can choose import into a new layer, right? Now over here, you go to the where is it? To the folder where you have the scan downloaded, textures, JPEG, face, and I'm going to import the color, the albedo, I don't know how it's pronounced, sorry. You go import all patches. You just wait and boom, right? Just like that, you have your diffuse imported. Again, this is the female object wrapped to our model, right? So once you do that with all the layers you want, right, we're going to turn on our model, right, like this, so that they overlap, and we're gonna go up here to channels, right? In channels, we're gonna click transfer, all right, and this is the little window that pops up. So the source is going to be the head wrapped, right? Head wrapped with the diffuse color that includes all these layers that we imported, right? And the destination is going to be our object, right? Guts Berserk. So with the channel selected, we just click the little arrow, right? Diffuse color, diffuse color. In the size, you can check it, leave it as it is, the same as source, or in case the head transfer was 4K and guts is 8K, you can just change it to a different size, 8K for example, and then you click OK. Once you do that, the what's it called? The software is gonna do its thing, and it's gonna take a few minutes. So don't worry if it gets slow. Just don't touch anything, right? You just wait for it to finish. Once it's done, right, you're gonna have this right here, which is your object, which is Giga Guts, and he is going to have all your textures. Now, as you can see, my model is much bigger than the head wrap, right? It just cuts to the geometry of over here, and mine is a little bit larger with part of his chest, of his back, whatever, even his shoulders, right? So the texture is gonna look a little bit weird, so you can just delete the artifacts that's gonna be outside, right? So with this, you have your new textures, right? Which is the displacement, the specular, the roughness, and the diffuse, right? And boom, your model has the textures from the female model from 3D Scan Store, right? With that, you can export them, or you can start editing them. I'm gonna open up my main file so I can show you what I edited, right? Which is this one, Project Guts New Body. All right. Now, when it comes to my models being imported into Mari, right? The way I start, or first of all, what I want to do is I want to project the displacement to the model. So I'm gonna turn off the scan, right? And this is what the projected displacement is, right? Now, the displacement, either you can do it manually inside of ZBrush, right? Or you can do it with textures. Whatever it is you want to do. In my case, the easiest way is with textures. I think. I may be wrong, right? So how did you project them? Well, first of all, I'm just gonna turn off all the layers, right? Like this is the model blank, it just has a gray color on top. And our channels is the displacement, right? Remember that I told you to leave the, what's it called? The scalar data unchecked. Well, when it comes to displacement, roughness, specular, all those values that are just like black and white, you leave this marked scalar data, right? And once you have that, again, you're gonna have your model like this, 50% gray. So usually what I do, I create a triplanar projection layer, which is, if I remember correctly, is here in Add Procedural Layer, and you go to Projection and then Triplanar Projection. I'm gonna turn that on. So with this, you just get a tileable skin texture, which again, you can make it and you can find one with your textures that you obtain. For example, texturing XYZ is the page where I got my own, right? They sell you the displacement, the textures, and I mean there are giant textures of the whole face, as you can see over here in the miniature, right? This is all pure detail, and the detail is separated into a primary, secondary, and tertiary detail. So all three of those are different, each one like a bit more detailed than the other. I'll show you in a little bit. So I just made a little one like a 2K file, 2K by 2K, and I just projected throughout the entire mesh, so that every pixel has detail of skin, right? In case I miss something in my projection, well, it's not just like a soft soft part of the skin with no detail. No, there's always detail in case some parts are missing, right? So that's my first layer. Then here, since I told you that I've done before other versions of God, so I just keep, when I create a new project here inside of Mari, I just import the old texture and I keep working on top of it, right? So I have my projection, but I'm going to show you how you do it, right? So first of all, you need the files of the textures from whatever site you choose, right? In my case, texture in XYZ. If I remember correctly, 3D Scan Store also has textures like that. So you project them, right? So I'm gonna create a new layer, right? I'm gonna call it this projection, right? And here on our image manager, you just, click this button, which is the open image, or right click and open again, and you bring your image, right? So once you do that, you just grab your image, you drag it into your canvas, and it's going to show like this, right? So I'm just gonna scale it a little bit. So that's the texture, right? This one is a bit different because this one is multi-channel faces, right? Like these ones, because these give you the color, the displacement, and another utility maps. Yeah. Also, it separates the nose, right? Now, similar to how we wrapped the model of the female to our model in ZBrush, there are ways. The Texture in XYZ has a tutorial how to wrap like a plane with this texture on top into your model, right? That way you can just project all this detail without projecting it manually, which I'm going to show you right now, right? So that you can see it, I'm gonna turn off the triplanar, right? So the tool is right here, paint through, right? Now, one of the things that if you haven't used Mari before, it's gonna be a little bit weird for you, is that I'm gonna show you right now. For example, I have the black color selected. If I just paint like that, it's not projected onto the model yet. The way Mari works is all projections. That means that this paint that I made right here, right, is not baked into the model. Imagine like a piece of glass in front of your canvas. You paint on the glass and then you project it into the model. So I'm going to show you. If I move the camera, right, you will see that the paint moves. Like the paint is there, it's not baked, right? Like I can walk throughout the model and the paint hasn't changed, right? It even cuts when the model is not in front of the painting. So in order to project it to the model, you have to click the bake button, which is the hotkey is B. You click it, right? And boom, now if you move the camera, you will see that the model is painted. So this is pretty cool because in case you made mistakes or you don't like what you did, right? You can erase it. For example, let's say I don't like that, right? And now I bake it and it is there. Now, let's say you have it baked, right? And you want to delete it. Well, you have to create a new layer or something? No. You can just select your paint brush tool, right? And up here in the mode, you change it from normal to clear, right? And now we are deleting what we baked, right? And again, I have to bake it. So what I just painted is just these strokes in the clear mode. So it's going to remove whatever is baked into this layer we have selected. So let's say I want to delete that. Now I bake it and it's gone, right? That's like the basics of this stuff. But let's just go back to projection. So if we go into the painting, no, where was it? The tool properties. I'm gonna change the preview alpha so I can make it a bit more transparent. That way I can see my model a little bit more, right? So let's get it to the right scale, something like that. More like this, right? Let's say I'm gonna start by painting this eye right here. Something like that. So you align it and then literally you just start painting, right? Obviously there's different brushes and all that kind of stuff, right? But like this is the projection, right? And this is the detail that you're gonna apply as displacement inside of Maya or Blender, whatever is the software you use, right? And this displacement obviously is going to be applied at render time, right? So with all of that painted, now just click bake, right? And boom, there it is, right? Now you have those details inside your mesh. If we click the flat lighting on the main mesh, I forgot the name, right? We can just see the pure color, the pure projection, right? Now that's on top of the model. And again, I told you that the values were black and white. So why there is like bluish orange color, right? It's because this texture has a different texture in the red channel, a different one in the green channel, and a different one in the blue channel. The way we see that is if we change the view down here. We go to the red channel, that's what it looks like. Then we go to the green channel, that's what it looks like. This is the secondary detail, if I remember correctly. Secondary, primary, and tertiary. So you can see it's like more defined in each of the channels. Now, the way you use this inside of Maya, obviously I'll show you later, so don't worry about it. This is just the case if you are using these kind of textures to project onto your model, right? So obviously, this is how you would project it, right? I believe you can do it in Substance Painter as well, but I prefer Mari. So if we go back to the imported, we told you before, the one I painted some time ago. So this is it. This is how it looks, right? Again, red channel, green channel, and blue channel, right? Ignore that. There's no detail there. That's why it's black. All right. RGB. Okay. So this is the, what's it called? Displacement texture I projected. Now, the one we got from the free model from 3D Scanster, this one is in this layer. This is how it looks like, right? Now, you can see some of the orange values and bluish values from before because I used a mask to get rid of the original, right? If I go to layer mask and we go to disable mask, you can see that detail back in, right? I just created a mask to show what is underneath, which is the original, right? Right? I just got rid of some of the detail that didn't look good at render time. It was creating some holes in the mesh and some other strange stuff, right? But this is what you get, right? When you have it projected, and this one is the one imported of the transfer we did before, right? So once you have all that done, right? Let's say it's finished. All right, this is my displacement. How do I export it, right? We go up here, upper right, channels. In your channel, that ones they include all these layers you were working on. Go right click, export flatten, export current channel flattened, right? Just select it. You have the name displacement. If you have UDIM workflow inside your model, which is like this, which in my case I do, right? I have 8 textures, right? 8 squares of the UVs. It's going to export all 8, right? Separated by this, what's it called? Command. I don't know what's it called. Sorry. I'm gonna fail you on that one. Here, if you leave the mouse on top of it, you can see the format and different attributes you can add. Right? The color space, you leave it as automatic linear, and the rest of it is, and you go export all patches. And like I showed you before, it's going to export all 8 textures like this, right? Which in this case is this one, 8 items, 1 gigabyte, right? And that's how your textures are exported. You do the same when it comes to the diffuse channel, right? With the color, which is this one in this case, right? This is the color that we imported from the transfer, right? Looks really good. Obviously, you can change stuff. In my case, I did some changes to it because I didn't like the color of the lips of the original and all of that. So I brought back the original one I painted, which is this one. Like I told you, it doesn't have many, it's not as detailed, the one I created, which is also part of it is from a projection that I did long time ago with textures like this one, right? But it was the albedo one, right? The diffuse. So I just imported the one from the free model from 3D Scan Store that we got. And much more detail, much more beautiful, right? So again, you go to diffuse, export, it's flatten, export current channel flatten, right? Auto saving for some reason, that's fine, right? You just change the name to diffuse, whatever you want. Or there's also the attribute you can create is this one, right? And it's going to give you the name of the channel. As you can see, I just wrote this attribute, and down here the file name example is diffuse, right? You can leave it as that. And to the color space, you're gonna export it as sRGB, right? When it comes to the diffuse ones. And that's it. You just click export, and then you have your files in the folder you chose, like this, right? So that is the whole workflow, my whole workflow inside of Mari, right? Pretty easy. Nothing that I'm going to show you is hard, really. I think the hardest thing may be the modeling inside of ZBrush, because it takes time. You have no idea how much trouble I experience creating my characters, because I'm never satisfied. I just look at them like one day, and then I rest my eyes for like a week, and then I look at them again and I'm like, ugh, who made it? Ugh, looks so horrible. I don't know how the nose looks, I don't know how the ears look, the chin is too far back, is too this, is too that, the nose is too big, the eyes are too separated, all of this, right? So I think, well, for me, that was the hardest part. The rest, it just takes time. I mean, once you know what to do, it just takes time, right? It's not impossible. The modeling, that was a challenge for me, and it still is. I'm not saying it's easy, but it gets easier. Never easy. So once we have all the textures exported, we're gonna jump. We're gonna jump to Maya.